a lot of the people who end up deep in drugs are usually people that are escaping mental health issues, are escaping a dark something that is happening in their lives, and it's something that they are avoiding or believe that they can't get themselves out of. I don't believe there's anything wrong with drugs at all. I don't believe there's anything wrong with cocaine, MDMA, opioids, alcohol, weed, uh, popping pills, or whatever you want to call it. There's nothing wrong inherently with the drug that's being used. The only problem is the abusing of the drug. What I want to say is that no one wants to live in a world where we don't have substances or drugs. The world that we want to live in is a world where the drugs are in a controlled state and people can actually have drugs not because they're avoiding life, not because they have mental health issues, but because they want to be recreational about it, have a little spliff, have a little sippy sippy, because it's fun.
Welcome to an all new episode of Looks and Wisdom Sundays with me, Oluchi B.
Hey guys, and welcome to another exciting episode of Looks and Wisdom Wednesday. We are dropping these on Wednesday. My brain keeps saying Sunday, but these are the short format content that I drop on a Wednesday. My name is Aluchi B. Please say the B, aka the elusive pundit. Honey, how are you feeling? I'm feeling cold. It's cold, cold weather, cold front, cold hearts, cold everything, literally. I don't even want to get into it, but it's cold, darling. It's the second time I'm with the polo neck, so you know it's serious, dead serious. But as co apo, so for this month of June, we're still going to be covering men's health. And last week we spoke overall about men's mental health and what I thought about it. And this week I've narrowed it down to one talking point, and that is addiction. So today, believe it or not, I don't even have my laptop. I have no notes. I literally have nothing. And this is because drug addiction, alcohol addiction is something that I have witnessed in my life. I have seen people being addicted. I have been addicted to alcohol. I do talk about me being a functional alcoholic in the book that I wrote called I Before We. I'm going to plug it. And I know people don't take alcohol addiction seriously because, I mean, we are South Africa. Chances are, 1.5 million people that actually drink and drink themselves to a stupor and drink every day. So it's always like taken lightly. And on the drug side, I actually did have an older sister who unfortunately passed away 2021 in August, and she was a drug addict. Actually, when I was covering addiction last year, I did dedicate the episode to her when we were talking about drug addiction. And my dad was an alcoholic. I know uncles. I know people who've been addicted to drugs. I've dated people who are addicted to drugs. I know friends who've been addicted to drugs, blah, blah, blah. The list goes on and 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 on. So I'm really not going to be out here just talking from science, talking from research. I'm going to be talking about from a personal experience. So without further ado, last week I did speak about the fact that people get addicted, not necessarily because, and I know there are people who get addicted for fun and for fun only, but there are people who get addicted, as per what I said last week, because they are trying to escape something that is happening, something that is painful, something that is swallowing them, whether it's depression, anxiety, stress, all of these different mental health issues that we suffer from. And I am going to play this clip by Nicki Minaj, and that's because I like having reference from people outside of myself. So I'm not crazy, or you guys think this is only my perspective. So this is Nicki in 2019, and she's speaking about the same thing that I'm going to be talking about. Hit it, DJ. Oops.
I recently had the pleasure of working and touring with Juice World. I had a great conversation with him one day, and while we walked to the stage, he held my hand and told me to stay calm and to pray. He said he had been trying to do just that. I was so shocked to hear him, of all people, tell me that, but right there in that moment with him telling me that, I actually did feel calm, and I felt like, what am I actually worried about? I felt like he was a kindred spirit. And looking back now, I wish I did something differently or said something to help. He was honest and pure about what he felt, and that inspired me. It doesn't feel comfortable for me to talk about me when someone so important to our culture just died. And so I want to honor him tonight and send my condolences to him and his family and his girlfriend and his friends and everybody. And I want to tell everyone that drugs isn't the problem, it's the way we fix our problem. So it's so important that we don't pass judgment so that people don't feel ashamed to speak up and ask for help. It's so important we talk about mental health. It is, because people are dying because they don't want to express how miserable they are and how much they're suffering. So they rather medicate themselves.
Again, I already had this narrative and I already covered it last week, and I am going to be talking about it today again. A lot of the people who end up deep in drugs are usually people that are escaping mental health issues, are escaping a dark something that is happening in their lives, and it's something that they are avoiding or believe that they can't get themselves out of. My situation when I was heavy on the alcohol consumption pre 2018, I stopped drinking 2018 in February and went on a sober challenge for a whole year. And ever since, I don't drink like that. I will drink for fun and for entertainment purposes, but it's not something that I'm anchoring or use to avoid any situation anymore. So that was my situation. And at that time, I was going through a hard time in relationships. And I was also going through a hard time in my job. And I was just in a dark place and I didn't know how to get myself out of it. So instead of getting the necessary help, I used alcohol to pacify. And then in the case of other people like my sister had had mental struggles for a very long time, suffered from a lot of trauma, and went into, as my understanding, at the time, she used it for recreational purposes. She started on the high end of the drugs, like your coke, your MDMA, and all of these fancy ones. But by the end of her process, she was a Nyawupe girl. Like literally, the girl left us, left the family, packed her bags, and went to go stay in the street under bridges, and was feeding her drug addiction. And we were very demonic people according to her, and she'd tell people that we don't love her, we are targeting her, and all of these funny stories. And we knew at that time her mental health had like depleted to no ends. And I remember in 2020 it was such a tragic time in our family. It was like literally at the climax of everything. And then a year later, she passed away under mysterious circumstances. She was in the streets, so there was nothing we could have done to find out why, because she died when she was in the streets and she had left the family. And when I spoke to people, because I still had hope, I spoke to people who were also came out of being addicted to Nyawupe. And one of the guys was a former friend that I had gone to UJ with. And it was like it's very difficult to get out of the lowest version of drugs. And I remember, who's this guy again? He's a Xhosa rapper, Soti Igyan. He also speaks about he was addicted to Nyawupe. And I was like, okay, people can get out. But unfortunately for my sister, she couldn't get out. She did end up passing away in the state that she was in. And again, I'm trying to emphasize the fact that people use drugs to pacify and to avoid a current life that they're living or current situation. And instead of trying to say that they're addicted to drugs or they are people who are drug addicts, we must actually look at the bigger narrative around what's going on in their lives, and also the fact that oftentimes they can't save themselves or get themselves out of the situation that they're actually in. And we can try sometimes to just be the background support to make sure. And I remember this other time, because when I drive, I usually toss money to the street people at the intersection. And when we knew she was down bad, I stopped giving her money. And she'd lie and be like, she needs money for electricity, for toiletries and stuff like that. And I wouldn't give it to her. And I was like, but every day when I go to work, I would stop and give like 5 rand, 10 rand to the guys that are on the street. And I'm sure they were using the money to buy drugs. So it was such a predicament for me. What do I do? Do I give my sister the money knowing that there's a high possibility? But then I was like, I'm already giving the money to the beggars on the street, and it's already a high possibility that they're using it for drug consumption. And I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna give her the money. And but she passed away before all of that. And I wanted to also get this clip by DMX about the what I'm going to talk about in terms of drugs.
Do you want to live your life as a clean man?
When you say clean, no weed, no drinking, nothing.
Nothing.
Why? No.
You don't want to live your life clean.
Why would I?
Don't want is to. Why? Because it makes you a clear, pure vessel for the voice of God. That's why.
I think I'm exactly where I need to be with God.
I don't believe there's anything wrong with drugs at all. I don't believe there's anything wrong with cocaine, MDMA, opioids, alcohol, weed, popping pills, or whatever you want to call it. There's nothing wrong inherently with the drug that's being used. The only problem is the abusing of the drug and using the drug to avoid and mask a specific part or portion of your life. And even for myself, I drink, of course. I do the herb sometimes, but it's not something that I'm dependent on. I do go on long periods of time where I take a break for a year, for 6 months. And that's also for me to exercise my authority over drinking, over whatever I'm doing. And I know I'm not addicted, and I know I will never be addicted. And I did speak on last week's episode about my relapse to cigarette last year when I was going through a hard time. And again, for me, when I'm going through a hard time, the first thing I stop is the drugs, whether it's alcohol or I was on the herb at the time or whatever I was doing. My what is it? I was going to say muffins, yes. What is it? Mushrooms and whatever. I'll stop it. I'll put myself on a fast and then on a strict diet, because there's a need to control something. And for me, it's always like, let's control the healthy parts of ourselves. So this clip by DMX speaks to the fact that no one wants to live without drugs. I mean, even when I think in my life, I'll be like, why would I want to live in a world where I can't drink alcohol? I love alcohol. Alcohol is not bad. I have the great times and I enjoy myself and I like being a delinquent. We know DMX was addicted, so we're not going to get into that, blah, blah, blah. But what I want to say is that no one wants to live in a world where we don't have substances or drugs. The world that we want to live in is a world where the drugs are in a controlled state and people can actually have drugs not because they're avoiding life, not because they have mental health issues, but because they want to be recreational about it, have a little spliff, have a little sippy sippy, because it's fun. So that's exactly why I had to create this episode around addictions, because really, we don't want to move away from it. I believe in equilibrium in everything. I don't believe in extremism where you're extremely addicted to drugs or where you extremely are like dry, sober. I always believe that there's equilibrium in anything. And if we are smart about it, we can actually control the substances that we use. And that's the world I want to live in, not a sober world. And other addictions, sex addiction. Casper does speak about his sex addiction in the episode with Mpumile Dwaba.
What led to me being saved was like the hardest period of my entire life. And this was maybe a few days, but it felt like, oh my God, what is happening? You know what I mean? I woke up one day and I looked in the mirror and I had questions I couldn't answer, you know, but these questions are questions I've always had, but I couldn't answer them. But it's like my answers were not good enough and I didn't understand what was going on, you know? And it was 3 simple questions like, who are you, where do you come from, and where are you going?
And you had no answer.
And I didn't have an answer. And I was like, because at first I was like, I mean, I'm my parents' child. So,
I'm Casper.
yeah, but like the question was actually to my soul. It wasn't like to this temple, this body, this. It was like, I'm like, what do you mean? Why are you questioning where my soul comes from? It's like, that's tough.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then I started questioning God. It's like, what is this? Like, where do I come from? And why don't I remember? Like, what's going on? Like, and like my whole life became a blur. Like, you know, I didn't enjoy anything. I didn't care about anything. I remember, and I was going to Durban, I was performing there, and I remember thinking, okay, at least I'm going to see my son. So, you know, he'll make me feel better.
Yeah.
And I remember my son running towards me and I felt nothing. Nothing. And I was like, what is this? I don't have feelings towards my own son. If there's anybody I love, it's this guy.
This boy, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I called Booga Love and I was like, yo, man, I'm going through something, you know? There's nothing bad happening, but I'm not okay.
Yeah.
So started playing, you know, with the idea that I might be depressed, and I'm like, I don't have any serious financial problems. I mean, everybody has debt, but like, you know what I mean? I don't have serious, I'm like, no.
Materially, you're fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I ended up, and I'm performing and everyone's going crazy, but in my mind, I'm like, it doesn't matter, I'm gonna die anyway. So it doesn't matter if you guys think I'm cool or not. You're all gonna die too. So it's like so wild.
It's very dark.
Bro.
Yeah,
Like,
but I get you.
what's going on with me?
Yeah.
And I would struggle to sleep. I would sleep for an hour or two and jump back up. And I struggled to go back to sleep. And then I went to a hospital. When I came back, they diagnosed me with depression. And I'm like, all right, okay, cool. So they gave me a pill, made me feel better for a few hours. Next thing, I'm back up again. I'm like, what's going on, man? And then, but I'm like, man, that's not the answer. Then I went to therapy.
Yeah. Sure. This is last year.
Yeah, this is last year, like towards the end of last year, maybe from July, August.
Yeah.
And I went to therapy and I'm like, okay, cool, therapy's gonna make me feel better, right? And it's like, yeah, it made me feel a bit better. But then like when I'm alone, you know,
there's a void.
Yeah, there's this, you know, and I'm like, man, something's wrong. And then I take these pills, I feel better, and I can physically feel myself getting better, but then I can also physically feel myself getting worse when it comes out.
Yeah.
Like, no, it's not the
Not
answer.
the way. Yeah.
It's something. So
Yeah.
I went to church and I was like, you know what? This is how I'm feeling. Blah, blah, blah. And the answer I got was very, very boring, man. And blunt. But it's what I needed to hear.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not what I wanted to hear,
Yeah.
but it's what I needed to hear. Because I went there and I was like, yo, man, what is life?
Yeah.
What is life,
Yeah.
actually? What is... Because, I mean, now I'm successful. I've done this thing. And it's
Got
like, what?
everything you could have imagined.
You know what I mean? People
Yeah.
are like, "Utlokile, ntwana," but "Kitlokile ini." You know what I mean? What is it that I figured out? Because I'm going to die. Yo. you're making it this relationship where we go to God for something.
Yeah, it's like a
You know
transaction.
what I mean? And it's like, you're such a good child, I'm gonna give you $1 billion. It's like, nah, dog, that $1 billion does not matter. We're talking about salvation. We're talking about your soul,
Your soul.
that you cannot buy. You cannot do this
essence.
again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it hit me. And I'm like, this is what's missing. This is what I've been playing with. I've been playing with my life. And the devil had me. He had me so deep that I did not think about this at all. Everything that I did was validated, and I could negotiate why I was doing it. I was addicted to sex. I was addicted to sexual immorality in general. And I had such a big ego. I thought I was better than everyone else. But I was humble in the sense that I wouldn't offend anyone. So
Yeah.
I'm a good person. So
Yeah.
anything that I do is fine because I'm a good person,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But then I was like, man, like I was headed straight for hell if I didn't have that wake up. So I had an encounter with God. He put me in a place where only He could save me.
Yeah.
And again, with Casper's admission, I don't know anything about sex addiction. I think the last person I heard who had sex addiction was the guy who broke Halle Berry's heart back in the day. But again, everything that we do is always on the extreme for a very specific reason. And oftentimes, this reason is tied to us avoiding our mental health issues and the dark places and the dark times that we go through in life. And Anele also spoke about the fact that over exercising, going to the gym all the time, basically anything that we use to avoid the current situation that we're going through and use it to pacify and forget, that's an addiction. And again, I don't like making these Wednesday videos long because I want like quick, easy listen and get out. So tell me what other addiction you might know or people go through. And I think that's it. That's it. First, number one, drugs are not the problem. People are the problem when they abuse drugs and use them for the wrong reason. And secondly, I don't want to live in a sober world. I want to live in a world where we're able to control ourselves, self-master and self-understand to a point where we don't need drugs for avoidance and we actually use drugs for recreation. And I mean, we can't avoid drugs. And every time they go to the pyramids and they go to these ancient civilizations, there are remnants that people were using drugs for whatever they were using drugs for, probably survival, like we use drugs for, or for recreation. So that's it. That's it. I think that's the only thing I want to say for today. Thank you for watching. Thank you for coming through, being with the girl on a Wednesday. Do subscribe, do like, and do tell your friends. With that said, I have no further information to give to the masses. I'll see you on Sunday.